For our third video, we will be making these adorable bow studs. These are made from two separate pieces, which we will then attach together. We'll again use the 20 gauge brass wire and the file, and we will use the wire cutters, the wire straighteners, the needle nose pliers, and the flat nose pliers. This stud is made out of two separate pieces, the post and then the bow itself, and we will begin by making the bow. Before we start anything else, we are going to smooth out that wire as usual. Then we will begin the earring itself by filing the end of the wire smooth. Using the flat nose pliers, we will leave a very tiny tail at the end of the wire and create a small bend. So placing the wire in the very tip of the flat nose pliers, we will bend it over. Once we have done this, we will switch to our needle nose pliers and begin creating the loops of the bow. Depending on the size of bow that you want, you will create the loop either closer or further away from the end of the wire. I placed my pliers about 1/4 of an inch or so from the end of the wire and then began wrapping my loop. The size of the bow also will determine where you place the wire in the pliers, how far down from the tip that you wrap the wire. As you finish bringing the wire around, the loop should look like a teardrop and not a circle. We will do the same thing to create the second loop of the bow, and leaving a small space in between the tail of the first loop, we will then wrap the wire around our pliers at the same distance from the tip as we did the first, so that the loops are the same size. We will now create a bend here to match the first end of the wire with the flat nose pliers. Usually I just eye this up so that the second tail matches the first. Once we have created the bend in the wire, we will then take the wire cutters and cut off the excess wire so that both tails are the same length. Now that it is cut, we will smooth the end with the file. Having wrapped the wire to create the bow, we will now adjust the shape by pushing both tails up towards the loops so that the tails of the bow are a little more spread apart and the shape of the bow is a bit more narrow. You can skip this step if you like how the bow looks with the tails more straight down from the loops, but I like how they are spread apart and it gives it a nice dainty old-fashioned bow look. And now we will create the post of the earring and attach it to the bow. Using the needle nose pliers, we will create a bend about 3/4 of an inch from the end of the wire, about halfway down into the pliers to create a small bend in the wire. And now we can attach the bow to the post. The long end of the wire will become the post, so we want the top of the bow, where the loops are, to be upwards towards the long end of the wire, and then we will wrap the short end twice around the bow shape. Holding the bow firmly as you wrap the short wire around so that it remains perpendicular to what will become the post. When you come to the end of the wire on the second time around the bow, we'll press it firmly against the bow shape and then use the wire cutters to cut off the excess wire so that that end does not stick up above the bow. Once we have cut off the excess wire, we will then use the flat nose pliers to tighten the wrap against the bow, taking particular care of that cut end so that it is firmly pressed against the bow and will not catch on anything. If you need to, you can use the file to smooth that end down. Continue tightening and squeezing the wrap until the bow no longer twists within the wrap. And then we can create the post for the stud. So I'm going to flatten the wire so it is all flat, perpendicular to the bow. And then I'm going to cut the post 3/8 to 1/2 inch long. And then using the flat nose pliers, we're going to make sure that the post is straight and perpendicular to the bow. Once that is done, we can then file the post and finish off the earring. And now all you have to do is follow these steps again, creating the bow and the post, putting them together, and you will have created your second bow stud. Now I'll be seeing you in the next video.